The world was my oyster, and that's exactly what I drew. Oysters, I think. Well, I may have thought that they were oysters. I think they were. I mean, I was like 5, right? But I knew that these were my crayons, and with these crayons there was so much responsibility. They were the keys, and the road was my creativity, and the paper was my Ferrari, you see? And in that Ferrari was me, the king of all things laid on the parchment, because right there, that was my crown, and below me my throne, and ooh, this was a butterfly, and these were stars, and this the moon, and this was the silhouette of the cow that jumped over it, and yes, this right here, this is my mommy, and this is my daddy, and all of these, my personal art collection, were hung in my museum. As long as I could draw, it was right there on that gigantic metal door I called a refrigerator. For all the world or the kitchen to see, whichever came first. But the thing was that I drew too much. I burned through these sheets of paper faster than Nero could burn down Rome, and the walls of the gallery looked like an A-cup bra trying to hold back a pair of triple Ds. Whenever you opened it to get some milk, it couldn't help but let go of a few pieces of art and a few bottles of blue-flavored Squeeze-Its just to keep its dignity. And these walls, they didn't pull their weight. They were too plain, and my imagination was not tame. My ideas were heavier than the roof the walls held, and this was a moment of opportunity, and this was a moment of inspiration, and this is a kitty, and this is a doggy, this is a rainbow, and this was a spanking from my mom for drawing on the white walls of military housing. So I grew a little, and I gave the crayons to the other kids to keep them occupied when they ordered food at grown-up restaurants. And I took down my refrigerator gallery because I didn't like looking at my old work, for I was an artiste. And the Crayola medium was too constricting, so kindergarten. And these finger paints allowed me to feel the colors, because red, it doesn't feel like blue, just like light doesn't feel like love. And these notebooks bled through with color if I touched them, and the paint was so loud I needed to put it on poster board. So these posters could yell all around my room as I tacked them up in my studio. And this is an interpretation of the sun, and this an interpretation of the earth, and this a mountain, and this a waterfall, and this was a mistake to put the jars of paint next to the cup of purple-flavored Kool-Aid, because with one swift avant-garde stroke, oh no, the tile was multicolored. And I smiled and called it abstract. Well, my father, he called it an ass whipping for staining the carpet. So I grew a little more, and I realized that my work wasn't appreciated at home. And I realized that I had magical powers. I could make girls hopscotch back and forth. I could make boys throw dodgeballs at the ground instead of the fat kid. I could hang a stick figure man from his stick figure throat just because the class didn't have an adequate enough vocabulary. With my piece of chalk, and armed with this magic wand, I could draw astronauts, spaceships, aliens, and send them away to explore space with one swipe of the eraser. And I would bang the erasers together in order to liberate my ideas into the atmosphere, forming brainstorms and white clouds that could make LeBron James jealous. And for these noble deeds, I received Nobel Peace Prizes, accolades, and medals, and wooden rollers to my knuckles from the nuns for making a mess all over my uniform. So I grew up, and I believe that we all grew up. And at some point we forgot how to draw because drawing was childish. And we went to school and we got good grades, and all the thinking we did outside had to be put back inside the box. And we waited. We waited until we saw what we had long forgotten, because some people didn't forget. While we cast our doubts onto other people, the fisherman cast nets into the depths of imagination, as drew his lines in full of fish. While we critiqued the chef, the peasant drew flavors out of stone soup, with enough left over to feed our imagination. The prince, he drew notes from his guitar string. The pianist, he drew candles in the wind. The tattoo artist, he draws road maps that lead to passed away loved ones over mourning hearts. The activist drew crowds and changed their point of view. And the graffiti artist drew on walls because the canvases were too small to contain the mere notion of change. Because of all these people, know that the museums are cemeteries where people weep and then they leave. Because all these people's statements make statements too large to screen print on a frickin' t-shirt. Because every time we draw, we celebrate cavemen that didn't know how to draw and had to literally spit knowledge onto the back of their hands, onto the granite, that let anyone know that they were there. That they were there, and this is what I saw. And your sunset will never be as beautiful as the one that I saw. But I'm willing to share it with you if you let me draw your attention. And at some point, I remembered how to draw. So I do. I draw breath through camels, into my lungs, and out of my mouth to remind you of how beautiful an image can be. Me, the Crayon King, all grown up. Thank you.
Don't make money change.